Greetings, love warriors. Greetings, love icons. Stop the energy drain. Heal quantum versions of yourself. That is our topic tonight. Healing quantum versions of yourself. Unhealed versions of you in the quantum field are draining your energy. How do you know if this is happening? What does this look like? This looks like you are ready to move to the next big step in your life, the next big phase, and somehow you just can't get there. You're running into blockages. You are, when you reach for the energy to do whatever is required to get to the next phase in life, you find that the energy is just not there. Whatever that next step is, say it's time for you to grow your business, you need to attract more clients, but this requires you to really put yourself out there, right? To promote more. And you just can't bear to do it. Say you need to grow your business, you need to be more productive, you need to produce more, you need to provide more services, sell more products, but this is going to require you to get help in your business. And you just can't bring yourself to hire help. Perhaps you are doing all the things. You're doing all the things to grow your business or to grow your relationships, right? And your efforts are just unsuccessful. You're like, I'm trying. I don't know why nothing I'm doing is working. I just can't figure out what the thing is that I need to do to get over this hump. Well, if all versions of you, or even more versions of you in the quantum field, were in coherence with the current version of you, you would have the ability to see, to sense, to feel what is the right step to take. Okay, so we are talking about unhealed versions of you, parallel versions of you in the quantum field that are draining your energy. Greetings, Diana. This is a phenomenon that we're just not commonly aware of. But the good news is that as we are moving into the age of Aquarius, as we are moving into the 5D, the energy is now here to support you bringing loving and healing energy to parallel versions of you in the quantum field. The energy is now here to support you turning detracting versions of you in the quantum field into collaborators by sending loving, healing, restorative, balanced energy, love, yes, love, to quantum versions of yourself. Okay? So, greetings to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for coming into the room. I'm so glad to see you here. So, we want to talk about this. We want to break this down in a way that makes sense to everybody. Before I get into that, I want to introduce myself. My name is Pangia Northstar. I am a quantum healer. I am a sound therapist. I am a Reiki practitioner. I do readings. I teach. I love to talk about all sorts of things that have to do with spirituality, but my favorite thing to talk about is love. All my conversations are going to come back to love, right? And the most important love is the love for the self, right? Once you understand that you are a part of the all and that we are all one, you begin to understand the travesty, the injustice you are doing to yourself when you do not extend love to yourself, okay? Greetings to everyone coming into the room. I'm so glad you are here. I pray that this conversation is helpful for you all, okay? So, you guys, we're talking about unhealed versions of yourself in the quantum field and how they may be draining your energy. Okay. So, what we want to do is to begin to bring those versions into collaboration with us rather than being detractors from the things we're trying to accomplish in life. Greetings, Zena. Okay. So, you all, unhealed versions of yourself in the quantum field drain your energy. Those versions may still be out there living lives that are still at some degree of toxicity that you yourself have surpassed. Okay. It is possible that they have found a path to healing. Of course, it's possible because you are on the path to healing, right? But it's also highly possible that they are um, living lives that are chaotic, that are painful for them, and that are not in alignment with what you want for your life. Why is that? Because these versions of you were formed by you choosing the other fork in the road, right? When you came to points in your life where you had major decisions to make and you chose a version of yourself formed in the quantum field that chose B. And many times you didn't choose B because you felt B was a low vibrational path, right? And you wanted better for yourself. You wanted a better outcome for yourself, okay? Does this make sense? Give me some hearts if this makes sense to you, okay? So that version of yourself that went on living that life and took path B that you didn't take is not receiving or experiencing the benefits that you are experiencing from having chosen path A. Okay? Now, so this is, I don't want to go really deep tonight into really, explaining the quantum field and, how all these different versions of yourself and versions of your life form. We've talked about that stuff in other videos. So what I do want to talk about, I want to use an example. I want to bring it down just a little bit more, ground this conversation a little bit more into something that is more accessible to us. Okay, a reflection of the quantum field that is more accessible to us. Okay, which is the different iterations of you that you have been in this lifetime. Okay, we've been many different versions of ourselves in this lifetime, right? That is just a reflection. It is a mirror reflection of how there are many different versions of ourselves in the quantum field. Okay, so let's look at this more grounded, more easily accessible, easier to understand example, and know that this is the same in the quantum field. Okay, that things work the same way, and we'll just make it wrap back around. Okay, now different versions you've been of yourself in this lifetime, different iterations of yourself that you have fully experienced in this lifetime, previous versions of you. This could be your inner child, your inner high school or college self, the version of you that you were before you stopped like eating meat, before you became a parent, or before you became aware of your energy field, right? Or before you learn to forgive or what have you. These are all different versions of you. Okay. If that makes sense. Give me some fire in the chat. Okay. Now, these different versions of you are all what I like to call soul fragments or fragments of your soul. Okay. I have a really good video on soul fragments Maybe I will, I may link that. I may link that in the description box. Okay. Now, think of your soul. Okay. Think of your soul as a cake. Okay. Soul cake. Okay. Each slice of cake is a lifetime that your soul has lived. Okay. Think of your whole soul as a cake, and each slice of cake is a lifetime that your soul has lived, right? So, this lifetime that you are living today, right, is a slice of cake. Okay. In this metaphor. Now, each bite of a slice of your soul cake is a version of you that you have been in this lifetime. Okay. And each bite represents a stage in life that you have now surpassed. Okay. Now, there are many different ways that we move on from different phases of life. Okay. Now, hopefully, you have moved past those versions of yourself in authentic growth, right? Hopefully, you just move past old versions of yourself by recognizing behaviors that you had that were not serving you, right? Made a different choice and moved on to new behaviors without resentment or without judgment of your old behaviors, right? Of the old versions of you, and just simply chose something better. Okay. That's evolving. Okay. That's evolving. All right. We're going to call that eating your cake. Okay. Eating the slice of cake. Okay. Now, the other type of progression or way you may have surpassed an old version of you that would leave or create unhealed versions of yourself in this lifetime, abandoned versions of yourself in this lifetime, would be recognizing an old behavior that's not serving you and then going into judgment, judging that version of yourself was useless or weak or stupid or some other low vibrational characteristic, and just kind of tucking that part of yourself away, beginning to ignore that version of yourself. We do this by taking on characteristics that we've just seen other people display and seem to be working for them, and we take on those characteristics of on for ourselves as a coping mechanism. Okay. Now, this could look like becoming really controlling because you're blaming yourself for some natural life occurrence. You're calling it a mistake, and you're feeling that you cannot afford mistakes, right? So you could become a very controlling person. This could be becoming a bully to avoid looking fearful, right? This could be playing it cool or cold-hearted to avoid getting your heart broken again. Okay? Are y'all kind of seeing where I'm going here with this? This is abandoning your old self, right? This is putting away your old self and leaving an unhealed version of yourself deep within yourself, rather than just evolving past that version of yourself. Okay. So when we evolve, we move on with love. With love, we move on. Right. But when we are abandoning a part of ourselves, we hide that part of ourselves, we ignore that part of ourselves, and we take on some false characteristics, some false outer exterior in an attempt to try to prevent some negative thing from happening again. Okay. Give me some hearts in the chat if this makes sense to you, if this resonates. All right. Now, when we do that, abandoning version of moving on, that leaves an unhealed, fractured part of our personality. Greetings, Dabney. Good to see you here. Okay. Um, when we just simply move on and just forget about the pain and, just decide, hey, I'm done with that. I'm just going to be someone different rather than actually going through the steps to heal, to like confront what happened and heal and just choose better. That is what creates that damaged part of yourself, right? So this could be like a damaged inner child or a damaged version of yourself that now pops back up in your life later when you are confronted with a similar situation again. Okay. So now say you move on from, um, say you had a rough childhood. Greetings, Jatin. Greetings. Thank you for coming in and joining us tonight. Say you had a childhood in which you didn't feel loved or accepted. You didn't feel encouraged. You felt neglected, right? And you move into a phase of your life where now you become a parent, right? And now when it's time for you to encourage your child, it's time for you to nurture your child and bring your child close to you emotionally. Your neglected inner child starts acting up and says, oh my God, if this kid if I give all the attention and love and encouragement to this child, there won't be enough for me. What's going to happen to me if all the attention goes to them? If this child, is able to accomplish and achieve this and that and succeeds, what does that say about me? Right? And you go into this comparison thing, right? Or say you got your heart broken in the past and now you go into a new relationship and it's time for you to let this new person in your life into your heart in a new way. If you just abandon that old heartbroken version of yourself rather than going through steps to heal, that part of you starts acting up. When it's time to let that person into your heart, that part of you starts pushing them away and starts saying, wait, hold on, wait a minute. If I communicate with them, what if I look silly? What if I look vulnerable? If I support them in their dreams, what if they abandon me? What if they leave me? They become successful and leave me? You know, if I give to them in this way, there won't be enough for me. Okay? Give me some hearts. Give me some hearts in the chat if this is making sense to you, right? When you leave these bleeding, broken, unhealed versions of yourself, you just leave them out to dry, you just abandon them, they will come back up and they will stop you from being able to move forward in your life. When you're at pivotal points in your life, they will come back up when it's time for you to connect with others. This could happen in your relationship with your child, in your relationship with your partner, in a relationship with your parents. This could happen in the boardroom. It can affect your career. This is the result of trying to just move on instead of doing your healing work, connecting with yourself more deeply, right? So now, this is the same thing that happens, just the same way these old, previous, younger, old versions of yourself pop up when it's time for you to connect with others. This is the same thing that happens with unhealed versions of yourself in the quantum field when it's time for you to connect more deeply with yourself. When it's time for you to go to the next level in your life a new phase of life, you may very well have been doing your healing work for parts of yourself in this lifetime, your inner child, right? Your broken teenager, right? Your, frazzled college version of yourself, your heartbroken 20 something year old. You may have been doing the work on those parts of yourself. But yet somehow you're now ready to move on to some part of your new part of your life. Say you want to change careers. Say you want to move to a new country. Say you want to find a partner. And somehow you just keep running to this imaginary, well, I won't say imaginary, but an invisible wall. It's not at all imaginary, but it is an invisible wall. It's an energy field, right? This is somehow an energy field. You keep just bumping into resistance as you try to work this thing out, this next step in your life. What is happening? This is unhealed versions of yourself in the quantum field pulling on your energy, not allowing you to move forward. Think about it. If our whole soul is this whole slice, is this whole cake, and different versions of ourselves that we have been are slices of the cake. When you expand that out, there are multiple versions of each slice. Are there not? There are multiple versions of each slice. So that is our energy field. Our soul is a big ball of energy, a big field of energy. And when, let's say, segments of that energy field are not in coherence with one another, this weakens your resolve to be able to accomplish things that you want to accomplish in life. This detracts from your ability. This detracts from your momentum in your life overall. So if you are hearing my words and you are sensing that, man, I think this is what's going on with me. Maybe this is what's going on with me. I feel that there's some kind of invisible barriers or some kind of invisible energy drain in my life. And I'm not seeking to place this anywhere outside of myself. I'm not blaming this on other people. I sense that this has to do with me. Perhaps this is parallel versions of you pulling and detracting from your energy field. So what do we do about this? What do we do about this? I suggest that you deal with this in meditation through visualization. Okay? You have the ability, and you don't have to be some kind of Shaolin monk to do this. Okay? You don't have to be some kind of ascended master to do this. It's not necessary. Okay? You don't have to be an energetic ninja. All right? That is the beauty of the age that we are living in. That is the beauty of the dimension that we are now shifting into. Okay? We don't have to have a whole bunch of super, sophisticated, a whole bunch of steps, to do this. You simply need to go within. Okay? You simply need to go within. All right. So what you can do, and I'm going to suggest that you do it in stages. Okay? I am going to suggest that you do it in stages and make it bigger each time, go deeper each time that you do this visualization. Okay? You may decide, hey, for the month of April, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of the month of April, or for the month of May, or whatever. Okay, we talked about a week ago, we talked about, well, over the last 2 weeks, we talked about the energy of the number 7. So you may decide to make this one of your 7-day soul hacks. Hint, hint. Okay, I've done this as a 7-day soul hack. Okay, so what you can do is start with beginning to visualize the different versions of yourself. You can just start with the versions of yourself that you have lived in this lifetime. Okay? Visions of yourself you've lived in this lifetime. Okay? Now, we talked about what those versions may be, previous versions of yourself that you have moved on from. Okay? Now, those versions of yourself that you have moved on from in a positive way, or in a loving way, I'll say, because I want to get away from using, positive and negative. Those terms are so cliche now. But versions of yourself that you moved on from in love, in a loving way, and the versions of yourself you may have moved on from in a fearful way, in a way of like judging and resentment. Okay. If I were you, I would write those down, give those different versions a name. Like, hey, my childhood self, maybe my overweight self, my underweight self, my out of control self, my addicted self, whatever the characteristic was that identifies that version of yourself. Okay, love the versions you moved on from in a loving way. Maybe your very steadfast self, your very disciplined self, whatever. But just to give these selves a name, think of at least 7. Okay, think of at least 7 of these versions of yourself. Okay, and I want you to imagine these versions of you sitting around you in a circle. Okay? Sitting around you in a circle. And I've done this in more than one way. I've done one way that I've done it where I placed myself in the center and had those versions of me around me. And this was a way I visualized it primarily when I was really focused on unhealed versions of myself. You can picture those versions of yourself sitting around you in a circle. Perhaps their backs are to you. They're not facing you, their backs are to you. And just picture yourself, if you took a week to do this, say you did 7 versions of you for 7 days, you could focus on one version of yourself per day, sending that version of you love until that version of you is able to turn and face you. Okay? Just imagining this green light, this green glow going out to these different versions of you until one by one, they're able to turn around and face you in that circle. what a beautiful, beautiful visualization session this can be for you. Okay. Give me some fire in the chat if you like that idea. Okay. Now, another way you can do this, and this was like another phase of it that I did, because any of these visualizations you can repeat and repeat and repeat until it becomes easy for you. Okay, until you can, if you're doing the one I just mentioned, until you can easily imagine and visualize each version of yourself. Maybe they're all different sizes, different ages. Maybe they're all wearing different outfits because it represents, whatever phase of your life that they represent. But until you can clearly, you would be finished with that version of the visualization when you can clearly see and sense all of those versions facing you and receiving your love, sending it back to you, smiling at you till it's a reciprocal experience. Okay? And you will be amazed at how much better you just feel with inside yourself, just in your daily life, the confidence that you receive from doing this. Right? How much clearer your vision for your life becomes as you begin to do this. How much better you're able to connect with others as you become more connected with yourself. Okay? Now, another thing you can do, and we're just talking about bringing about healing, bringing coherence among different versions of you that you've been in this lifetime, and then we'll expand it out to different versions of you in the quantum field. Okay? So another visualization that I experimented with was imagining different versions of me from the quantum field. And we're sitting in a circle, but we're sitting with our backs to each other. Okay? And this is because this is versions of me I don't know. I just know it's me. Right? In this visualization, I'm not trying to visualize a whole lot of details about these different versions of myself that can detract from the action that we want to initiate in this visualization. Okay. So what I'm doing in this visualization, we're all sitting in a circle with our backs to each other, but we're touching each other. We're sitting close knit. We're sitting tight. And I just picture myself passing this awesome, it's like a green fire. It's just a fiery ball of love from me to the next person, the next version of me, to the next version, to the next version, until it goes all the way around the circle and comes back to me. Okay? And just keeps going and going. And, you can take your time with this. Your imagination is a muscle. Your imagination is a muscle that gets stronger over time, right? The more you practice visualization, the stronger your imagination becomes, right? And your imagination is a function of your intuition. Okay? Your intuition is a movement of your energy, right? So you're expanding the field of your heart chakra, and you are sending love to all these versions of yourself. It may take you quite some time before you can imagine this going around the complete circle and going from you back and making it back around to you. But once you do that, continue to do that and see how fast can you make it go around that circle? Can you feel that love energy getting stronger and stronger every time? Does everyone in the circle become healed and empowered and emboldened by this exercise? Okay? And when you do this, when you take it to the level of Not just versions of yourself that you've actually lived in this lifetime, but quantum versions of yourself in the quantum field. You begin to experience deeper manifestations, more synchronicities in your life. You begin to experience this grand opening inside of your life where you're able to envision your life playing out in different ways. You become able to envision your life looking different ways, able to see different possibilities, different ways out of any conundrum that you may be facing, something that may have felt like made you feel trapped before, something that you're like, oh, I can't get this picture out of my mind of this, monotonous thing in my life. Or I just can't imagine how this particular problem or challenge is going to work out. So as you begin to send energy to and receive energy from quantum versions of yourself in the quantum field, you are able to imagine different versions of your life and the many different beautiful ways that your life can be abundant. You begin to open up to seeing all the different ways that your life is abundant. So I really want you guys to try this. Thank you so much for all the love and support in the chat. I see those flames. I see those hearts. Thank you. I really want you guys to try this with yourself, okay? Because right now, if you're not doing this, if you have unhealed versions of yourself in the quantum field, picture that same circle that I said where we're shoulder to shoulder, we're our backs are to each other. Right now, that circle where you should have love going around that circle, going out from you and coming back to you. Imagine if some of those spaces, those people in the circle are just empty spaces. Just empty spaces. Just cold spots, dark spaces. How much slower is that flame of love, of vitality? How much slower is that coming back around to you when there are empty spaces in that circle? How much less momentum is there in that energy that you put out into the universe? How much longer does it take for the good energy that you put out into the universe to come back to you? This is what we are imagining. This is what this circle is representative of. The energetic cycle of life. The energetic cycles of manifestation. Okay? So I want you to begin practicing sending healing love, healing energy, sending balance to yourself. Okay? Sending balance to yourself. Okay? So we're going to wrap it up now. We're going to begin to wrap it up. Unless anybody has a question. If you have a question about this process, about what we're talking about, I will definitely answer your question. If you have a question, go ahead and put that in the chat real quick before we wrap it up. If you're watching this later and you have a question in or comment that you would like for me to answer, I do check my messages. I do check the comments and respond. Okay. So I want you to put a comment or question in there. Just let me know how this hit for you. When you try this out, I want you to let me know about the results that you get, and I want you to look for the results. Because when those results show up, I don't want you to just say, oh, well, wow, that's interesting how that worked out. I'm surprised that that worked out for me. Or, man, I sure do feel good today. Or, wow, I sure am thinking outside of the box now. I sure can't imagine how things will work out for me. Um, don't just look at it as a coincidence. When the results show up for you, when the results of your healing journey show up for you, I want you to recognize it as such. I want you to name your progress as progress. Name your manifestations as manifestations. Don't just gloss over that. You're damaging yourself when you just gloss over that. So I want you to stand in your own light, stand in recognition of the results that you're getting from these practices, okay? And come back and share them with me, all right? So I love and appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for letting me share with you the things that are working for me. That is really the main thing I'm doing on this channel is sharing with you the things that are working for me. Okay. All right. So I don't see comments or I don't see questions rather coming in right now that need answering. So I just want to thank you all for joining me on another Tuesday night edition of Attracting Love Energy. This is episode 41. All right, so peace and blessings to you all. Welcome to the 5D. You all have a wonderful rest of your week. Peace, love, and light.